Robert, what's your last name?
Lucero.
Lucero. Okay.
So just think, I'm not a loose cannon, I'm a loose arrow. I got some more.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, we're ready. We're live. Okay. I'm here with Robert. I can't even say your name. Robert Lucero. Did I say it?
You said it perfect.
All right, good deal. With JE Dunn Construction. We are in Marietta, Georgia. We're here at the Civic Center.
Yep.
We just had like a construction competition with young people. Your company was here. Mm-hmm. I assume they sent you here to invest in the next generation?
I come out here every year. This is one of our fun competitions we do with the SkillsUSA. I'm one of the judges.
Okay. We were down in Georgia earlier this year for SkillsUSA, doing some filming and some podcasts and whatnot. So
it's a good program.
Yeah, it is a great program. It is a great program. So, Robert, I asked you to sit down here with me and have a real and honest conversation. I'd like to just ask you a couple of questions,
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your origins. Like, how did you end up, what's your position that you currently hold at JE Dunn?
I'm currently the senior workforce manager out of the Atlanta office.
So what does a senior workforce manager do?
So I do all the hiring, the recruiting, of course, what we're here for. Recruit a lot of kids out of high school. USA, just America.
Yeah.
Total is just, we're going to be hurting for tradesmen if you look at, how many kids go to college and who don't. So
I've been hearing it a lot today. For every 4 people that leave, only one's coming back in.
Yes, sir.
That's not good math.
Yeah, I got this position just kind of thrown at me. I've been a superintendent for 28 years and worked for a few other general contractors. Been with JE Dunn for 16 years, over 16 years now.
Wow.
I just got called into the office one day and said, Robert, we got this position for you that's opening up and we need you to, I think you're the perfect man for the job. So I started the position.
Okay.
And what made me the perfect man for the job? I was one of these kids that just didn't go to college, started working, started swinging a hammer, started framing houses. Came to Georgia in '88, started working with a general contractor, Pickering Laws, in 1989 as a carpenter's helper. And
wow.
Just worked my way up. So when people tell me what school did I go to, I tell them OJT.
On the job training.
Yes, sir.
Oh my. Framing is actually, when I was in my, I was like 8, I wasn't even in my 20s yet. I think I was 17 or 18 when I first started framing. And I just did it for a summer, but it was some of the most fun I think I've ever had because, and we weren't doing anything commercial or anything like that. It was just houses. Mm-hmm. But by the end of the day, you could really see a sense of accomplishment. Like, that's the cool part about framing. Like, you'd lay it out on the floor or whatever, and then you'd stand it up and be like, wow,
I did
something today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually built it, yeah.
Yeah.
I got into carpentry when I worked I'm originally from Texas.
Okay.
So I worked for a lot of old farmers. I'm one of 9 children in my family, so we kind of grew up in poverty.
Yeah.
And started working for farmers in the area, mending fences, building barns. So that's kind of that carpenter trade. It was just something I love to do, love to build, like you were saying. You have something you built, you can come back. I built that. That.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what got me into the carpentry and got into commercial work. It's totally different than building houses.
It is very different.
So you got a lot more stuff involved in working for a general contractor. You get to see the whole process from tearing the trees down, grading, to the very completion of the building. And I drive around Atlanta, my kids get tired of hearing me say, I built that. I helped build that. I helped build that. So I'm sure my kids hate to hear that all the time, though. Well, they get tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But been in Atlanta since '89, so
wow.
I've seen this city grow.
Well, it definitely has done that. I mean, I wasn't here in '89, so I wouldn't know, but it definitely is big. So as a general contractor, I mean, one of your things that you guys have to do is coordinate and work with all of those different teams. Here today, I saw there was electricians, plumbers, welders. We just saw, I mean, you can see the remnants of masonry work that was here behind us. So I guess, how does that work as your company has come up and you're being a part of building things and whatnot? How does it work for you guys in managing the build? What are the things that you look for in people? What matters to JE Dunn?
Well, I guess skill set is really number one, skill set. And we call these other guys like different trades. In the construction term, it's subcontractors, but here at JE Dunn, we call them trade partners. So they're in it with us. So if they succeed, we succeed, and vice versa.
Well, remember, I'm an electrician by trade, so I was going to correct you because I actually hate the term subcontractor.
I don't like it either.
Whenever because it implies a sub tier, and I always say specialty contractor, but I actually like your term even better than mine.
It's not my term. It's JE Dunn's term.
Well, I love
we use
that
it nationwide.
Trade partner says that you're asking someone to partner with you.
Yes, and that's why we always use that term. Subcontractor is a bad word.
Yeah.
But in the industry, starting out, we've always called them subcontractors.
Oh yeah.
And then we have sub-tier subcontractors, but having them trade partners and working, when they work with JE Dunn, they feel that team effort. When we start building a job, when we start from the ground up, we get it. We have a lot of lean. All of our jobs are pretty much lean, so we do pool plans with the trade partners, and we build that schedule together. We don't just tell them like, hey, you got 3 months to finish this and that and that. They're involved with that lean process with us. So we build that schedule together.
Now, when you say lean process, what do you mean? Tell me more about that.
So lean process is getting down to brass tacks on how we're going to build it, where we're going to build it, duration, how many men, or how many employees you're going to have, your staffing, and where we're going to get to this point to get to the next point, and that's our lean process.
So so you help them build out the overall construction schedule. They're a part of that with you.
Yes.
That's a big deal. And I don't think that every general contractor, I know every general contractor that I work for doesn't realize the importance of that. I worked with one general contractor, and they wouldn't actually share they would only share my part of the schedule. And so I had no idea when other people were coming into it or what they were doing. And then they would get really frustrated when it seemed like we weren't able to meet the schedule. And it's like, well, we all literally, when you're building a building and bring it out of the ground, you have to do it together. An electrician can't wire the wall without the wall. Painter can't finish the wall without the drywall.
So you put all those tradesmen in one room.
Yeah.
And everyone does a pool plan, what we call a pool plan. We'll just start building a job, sometimes backwards to forward, forward to backwards. And we find those areas where we can actually make up time.
Yeah.
So you have your master schedule that we get from we tell the owner.
The owner says, I want it done by this date.
This is the date we're going to start. So we'll finish. And then what we do is we'll look at, when you're going to get the materials, when you're getting the units and what all of that. So we build from that. You build from your procurement. So pretty fun stuff. I haven't done it in almost 4 years now. I haven't been a superintendent. I've been in this position, really just going out to places like this, finding our new contractors or our future contractors.
Well, we have to do that because we know, being in the trade, I don't need to Google the shortage that we have. I feel it every day.
Yep.
I feel it every day. And I would think if you're a general contractor, you probably feel it more than most, because the specialty contractors, or the trade partners as you call them, that's a whole nother level. Electricians, plumbers, HVAC contractors, mechanical contractors, excavators, all that stuff. And the interesting thing, I love your approach to it, because I think it seems like you guys have an understanding of those trade partners are literally representatives of JE Dunn.
Yes, they are.
And so the importance of, you're literally empowering them to succeed. Like if you're a general contractor and you're listening to this podcast, I cannot stress for you the not only importance, but the reality of how intelligent it is to include your trade partners in that process. Because one thing that you said there that I heard, which should be appealing to all of us, is you're able to save and make uptime. That means they're able to make money. Because I think we all live in the competitive bid world, we'll call it. And so usually if we got a job, that means that we were competitive, which that's a nice way of saying crap.
Are you the lowest? Are you the lowest contractor? Or are you the fastest contractor?
Exactly.
That's what the owners want.
They want to know.
Who's the cheapest and who's the fastest?
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is in the industry.
It is
right now. It's tough.
Every now and then you get those owners who understand that they don't want the lowest. They want the guy that's in the middle. I think it was in Denmark. Like some of my experience was government work. Low bid always gets the job. And it's the dumbest thing ever. I'm not criticizing the government here online. Well,
no, don't do that.
Yeah, I am. But I think it was Denmark or Finland, I can't remember. But years ago I heard about this. Their government has this thing where, they do 3 bids just like we do. They have to have a minimum of 3 bids. But then they'll take the lowest 3, and they'll take and throw out the lowest bid and the next bid, and they take the guy in the middle.
That's good.
And they believe that that is a way that they can avoid the game that is played where you race to the bottom to get the job and then come back and try to make it up.
The lowest bid. They try to do that. Most of the time that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you got a hard bid job, that's different.
Right.
You know, hard bid jobs are hard bid jobs.
Right.
You already did the work and your homework. And if you look like a company like the size of, JE Dunn and our competitors out here, they have an estimating a staff they're dedicated of getting prices and getting the scheduling, and they put a lot of work in trying to get these jobs in. And you can see, the owners can see that from not just with JE Dunn, but with our competitors that are out here, that they do their homework when we land these jobs. And it's really what's the most important is when you get that customer and they want that name. They're looking for that label. They're looking for that. Like I remember them on that last project, having them repeat customers, it's a big part of it too.
Well, I think, I don't know any developers or customers at that level that might listen, but the reality is if a customer can have a revelation or an epiphany about they're picking a partner as well. Mm-hmm. The one thing about construction that's interesting is we have to deal with things that most other people don't have to deal with. We have to deal with the weather. We have to deal with a monstrosity of manpower and people to do a project. There are all these variables to get a project done.
Inflation,
all
part of it. Yes.
And sometimes you're bidding a job that might be a 1 year or 2 year project.
Oh, there's plenty of them.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them out there.
Those things change over time, and so if you want success as an owner, the importance of hiring someone that is a good partner at your level. Mm-hmm. That's we used to say we want the lowest qualified bid. Because the lowest bid doesn't mean, and I learned this the hard way. In our organization, we dealt with specialty contractors as well. And I got a quote one time, and I was young, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's the lowest bid. I can make that much more money off of the project. And it turned out that they didn't have some certain things in their number. They said they did, but they didn't. And I ended up having to pay more than what the other guy was to finish the project. And that's actually not that uncommon. So the importance of looking for the lowest qualified bid, I think, matters a lot in what we do.
Yes.
So you started out doing carpentry, doing framing, then you made the shift into the commercial world. So what led you to JE Dunn and what you've been there for 16 years?
Yeah, I've been here since started in 2008.
Okay. That's a great year to start in construction.
Yeah, that's back whenever 2007 crashed.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Exactly. That was,
I worked for other big general contractors prior to that, before the 2007, 2008 thing happened. A lot of these guys that are working with our competitors out here, we work together. Wow. So you run into the same superintendent, same project manager, same trade partners that had been knowing for years and years out here. What got me into this, I guess, just being a carpenter by trade made me a good foreman. So I stayed in the field for a long time, and I worked with a lot of old school carpenters that I learned from. And then as a carpenter foreman, I worked for a lot of great superintendents. Some of them were out here today that taught me, so I had a lot of mentors growing up, in this industry. And what made me a great superintendent was I was not just that superintendent that had the education about it. I had the education and the on-the-job training with those people, and just kind of grew up and earned my stripes.
Right.
So got in that position, been doing this for a while, been with this company for 16 years. Me going out here and meeting these young kids in these high schools, you can see the ones that are eager. This is what they want to do. And the first thing I ask them, like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
If you like your job, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Find something that you love to do. You'll never work a day in your life. You'll go to work every morning like I do. I wake up every morning. I love my job. I'm going to come to work as long as I still love it. Probably, who knows? I might be 90 years old when I retire. You never know.
Right.
Love your job. So what I love about what my position is, doing these events right here with the AGC Skills competition. I'm a judge on the carpentry, watching these young kids and the ones that are really making that effort to making sure that board is cut square. You can see that in them, and, you can see that passion that these kids have. And not just, the future tradesmen of America, but finding those kids and helping them grow in the company. We have quite a few young kids that we hired right out of high school. 2 of them are my nephews that actually work for the company. and I've watched them grow from a laborer to a carpenter. One already became a superintendent, and they got their career paths in front of them. And you see that when the younger generation, it's our job to make sure that we pass along our skills and our trades, the stuff that we know, to that younger generation. What are we going to leave behind if we don't?
Right.
So that's what I love about the position I'm in. This right here is the most rewarding part of my job right here. So.
Yeah. I will say we do a lot of these events where we are either hired by a contractor or the event people to promote and market what it is that they're doing. And they're some of my favorite things to be a part of, because it's about bringing that next generation into the trades and showing them the opportunity, showing them the things that they have and what they can do. And I really do believe that we live in a time where opportunity is greater than it's ever been. I know that when we watch the news and we see the things that are going on, it can feel scary, that things that are out there. But the reality is the opportunities that are out there, especially in the trades right now, because of the shortage that's there, is exponential. So, well, I like to ask people a specific question when we do the podcast. And so you've had no heads up. You sat down here to have this conversation with me.
I just walked up and Will Ether and said, "Robert, come over here."
Yeah, and you sat down. And
I was
now
heading
you're on
that
camera. So my question for you that I want to ask, and then I'll ask you another one here towards the end of the podcast. But the first question, and I'll give you a heads up on the last one. But the first question is real simple. What's a tool or a piece of gear that you can't live without?
A tool and a piece of gear I can't live without.
One or the other, a tool or a
tape
piece
measure.
of gear. Tape measure.
Got to have a tape.
So yeah, tell me why.
You got to have the correct measurements for anything to work. How do you do square, plumb, and level without a tape?
Come on, I love it.
So everything has to fit.
Yeah.
So if you get a drawing, what's the first thing you need on the drawing? You got to have the right measurements, right? On the
Absolutely.
building. Tape measure is probably your most
I love
important
that.
tool you have.
My this will be a defense for me. My wife hates this, but tape measure is one of those things. I have so many of them, and every time that we go to a hardware store, I'm like, oh, that's a new tape measure, and I buy another one. And she's like, why do you do that? And I like you said, I'm always, and it doesn't matter how many I have. I'm always like, where's my tape measure?
You're always looking for it?
Always looking for it.
Mine's always on my hip.
Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, again, I'm an electrician, so a tape measure doubles as a hammer.
Yes, it does.
Just so
that's why you're buying them all the time. You're using the expensive hammer you have there.
Oh my gosh. So tell me a little bit more about what type of construction does JE Dunn do, and
oh, wow.
what are some of the things that you can tell me? What are some of the things that you guys are doing here in Atlanta and around?
Oh, we got quite a few projects here. So we're broke down in different divisions. So we have aviation, and
wow.
So we're doing 3 projects for Delta right here in Atlanta Hartsfield.
Okay.
And we're doing the Sky Club down there at D Concourse. It's great, just see those things go up.
Yeah.
And the hardest part about it is, one, I help with the manpower on all the projects. So the hardest part is really getting everybody the badging. Getting everybody set up, lined up to go out there, and the superintendents have to let me know way ahead of time when they need more help. They want to staff up.
Because there's a whole process.
There's a process of getting their badges and stuff like that, and being able to get out there on the tarmac and driving my truck out there. You got all the rules with the planes and stuff like that. That's pretty exciting. But the hard part about it is logistically getting in and out of that airport.
Yeah.
So that's one of a pretty difficult project. But we have a great team out there that's doing that job. Not me.
Yeah.
All I do is I'm just here for support with them, and those are really good projects. We got a night shift crew, and then we have a day shift crew, so that makes it really difficult. There's a lot of these guys that work night shift, they put their life on hold. You're working night shift, so of course they get paid well for it.
Yeah,
that works.
You have to do that with airport work, though, especially if I remember right. Atlanta's the busiest airport in the world.
Atlanta is the busiest airport, and it's the easiest to commute through.
Yeah.
Atlanta's the way it's set up. It's the easiest airport to go through.
Yeah.
So that's aviation division. So we have educational group. They do. We're doing schools, KSU. We work for KSU, Georgia Tech.
Okay.
University of Georgia. We have their educational group. There's K through 12 schools, universities, baseball fields. We're actually doing another job in Athens for a classic center, so it's another just sports arena,
Right.
stuff like that.
Right.
So we have a medical division, you know, a medical group. You know, they do hospitals and stuff like that. We're right doing a hospital right around the corner, doing
Okay.
the bed tower. So all the divisions are spread out, and healthcare division is kind of a one of its own. They're all over the nation as well. So we have, you name it, we build it. It's commercial.
Right.
So residential, a lot of high-rise residential going up, especially here in Atlanta. A lot of it's for like student housing, stuff like that in Atlanta. Those are still booming pretty good right now.
I wouldn't even necessarily call that residential. Like when I think residential, I'm thinking like subdivision
Houses.
But high-rise residential is it's not residential.
commercial.
It's yeah. So you should know this. So I'm going to ask you this question here. You're in charge of manpower. Like, what's the workforce of JE Dunn? You named a bunch of different divisions here. So like, you got 50 guys. Like, how many people?
Currently, I manage all the hourly non-union workforce here
Okay.
in the Atlanta office. So we're at 100 employees now.
Wow.
But we go up a little higher than that if you look into their other staff, like your project engineers, project managers, superintendents. Those numbers I don't know, but I do know every hourly employee we have here in Atlanta.
Wow.
I keep them all busy, keep them rolling on the next job and the next job. So we're always forecasting years in advance to make sure, like, do we need to hire more people? When do we need to hire them? So I'm constantly looking for new talent, new employees.
Maybe this is a little insider trading here, but if you guys are always forecasting and looking, what's your forecast in construction? What do you see coming down the pike? It's an election year, so
I see. Well, election year. You know, a lot of people talk election year. Even after the election, it takes the next president, whoever is voted in. It takes them 2-3 years before they even make any kind of changes. So that don't really bother the commercial side where we're working at. The first quarter next year, we see a lot of jobs coming up. Actually, this is the last quarter this year. We're starting some big jobs and everything. I don't see an impact in it whatsoever.
Wow.
You know, maybe down the line, I can't predict 5-6 years from now what's going to happen. But, you know, no one can.
Right.
But from right now, where we're at right now, everything's still doing really well. So
that's really encouraging. That's good to hear.
yes.
Yeah. So you guys do basically all facets of commercial work. And I heard a company once say they're a pretty big construction firm, and they said, we do everything but build houses. So,
well, we do. We're the Habitat. You know, we're always doing the extra stuff. You know,
Yeah.
we're always doing a lot of volunteer work. Another great thing I like about JE Dunn is we're not only building Atlanta, we're building the community around it.
Come
so
on.
you just look at, you know, the Ponce City Market. We're involved with a lot of stuff over there, hiring locals, you know, giving more to the community. We have a big volunteer program with JE Dunn. So we're always giving back to the communities. That's another big part of it that I like about
Yeah.
it. That we're not just, you know, making all that money. We're giving back to the communities that we're building. So when we build that building, you give to the community, that building strives. That owner wants to build another one. He's seen what he's doing to that community. So when you drive back and look at the area that was once nothing, and then you go back, just like Atlantic Station, you know, we've been out there forever, and it just became its own city. You know, you have downtown, midtown, uptown, but then you got Atlantic Station kind of over there in midtown, and you just seen it go from nothing to now just another part of the city.
Wow.
So the whole community grows with the development. You know, it's a good feeling to know.
So I've talked with a lot of contractors in the Georgia and Atlanta area, and I find it really interesting that this is the birthplace of Habitat for Humanity. And in my town in Lancaster, where I live in Pennsylvania, you know, there's a Habitat for Humanity restore. I actually did a podcast with their director. I don't remember if that was his title or not, but I hear this a lot about investing in your community. And I feel like I hear that a lot here in Atlanta from these different contractors. And it's like, it doesn't seem like a plug. It doesn't seem like I was just talking with a company over here that they shut down their entire company a few weeks ago and went around Atlanta doing odd projects for Habitat for Humanity for the entire day. And it's like, that's an investment. And then, you know, you're sitting here talking with me and you're bringing up how you guys are investing in the community. Robert, why does that matter for construction companies to make that investment? Because that's money that they're expending out that they could keep on their books. Why is that important?
Well, if your community's thriving, the community's growing. If a growing community, you got more investors coming in, other companies coming in wanting to build. You see a community growing. Just like that tree out there, when that tree stops growing, what's going to happen to it?
Yeah.
It's going to die, right? A city that's not growing is going to die. You want the whole community to kind of grow with it. You just don't want to go over and just build a couple of buildings and leave, take your money and run. You got to sit there and nurture it. If you plant that tree, you don't water it, you don't put the soils around it so the roots can grow.
Right.
The tree's not going to grow. I'm just kind of using it as a metaphor.
No, it's a great example. It's a great example.
A city that's growing is, if the city's not growing, it's just going to die off. You're not going to have much of a city left. So
right.
It's got to grow. The community has to grow with everything. And you have, when the community's growing, you have more residents. Those residents need jobs.
Yeah.
They're bringing more revenue into the city. The more revenue, the more building. So construction is constantly going when you're having that. So that's what your community, and not just that, you're helping people too at the same time.
Yeah, I think you communicate that people have value, and I think the economics behind what you're talking about, it's really funny. Sometimes it's counterintuitive to us in the moment, but if you're playing the long game, it really makes sense. It really does. So JE Dunn, do you just work in the Atlanta area? Like what kind of reach do you guys have? How far do you go?
Well, in the Atlanta office, we kind of help most of the Southeast. So we have a national office. We have one in Charlotte, one in Savannah. We got an office in Tampa. This Southeast region right here. So we're pretty spread out. Like we got jobs starting up in Greenville, South Carolina.
Wow.
At the Atlanta office, sometimes we'll work in Ohio, way out in the middle of nowhere, doing data centers, stuff like that, So we're spread out pretty wild. So, but each office, supports each other. So it's not just the Atlanta office by themselves.
Is Atlanta where JE Dunn started?
No, sir. Actually, JE Dunn started over 100 years ago in Kansas City, Missouri.
No way.
The
You
Dunn
still
family.
have an office
The
in
Dunn
Kansas
family.
City?
Yes, sir. That's our main corporate office.
Okay.
So the Dunn family is not only the JE Dunn family, it's my family too. We're an ESOP company, so that's another good reason to stay.
Wow.
So you're a part of the company as well. So that ESOP grows and the company grows.
I did not
My
realize I
stocks
was
grow
talking
with
to
it.
an owner.
Yes,
So-
yes, we are an employee-owner company. So another great thing.
That is a great thing.
Yes, sir.
You play a direct role in your retirement.
Oh yeah.
That
If I ever retire, if I still love my job, like I said, I might be here till 90. Sorry, JE Dunn. It's stuck with me for 30 more years. You never know.
You bring up a really good point. What is it that you love most about your job and what you do at JE Dunn?
I would say here in the Atlanta office, what founded me going back to being a general contractor is I stepped away for a little while and tried to start my own business, the residential side.
Yeah.
And when 2007-8 came and I came back to being, a superintendent again, coming with this company, I would say the number one thing that kept me right here in the Atlanta office, and I've seen, even our presidents and our senior PMs, they've been here just as long as I have, if not longer. We have some of them that's been here for 35 years.
Wow.
That's still with the company. And I would say the people. If that guy right there, he's one of the big guys, and look at him. He's a laborer, walking around, carrying stuff around. It's the people.
Yeah.
The culture, the people culture that we have with JE Dunn makes it a fun place to work. So we have this little thing called #JEFun. So we're always doing stuff together, always bringing our families together, doing events, and just keeping, you're not just an employee number, you're a name.
Yeah.
So I think most people in the Atlanta office know my name, so.
Wow.
Sorry, everybody. I can be annoying sometimes.
Wow. That's I had no idea that you guys were that big. I had no idea that. So your 100 people that is just in your
This is
area,
my hourly employees, just the
Yeah.
hourly employees that under me. I'm the senior workforce manager. Yes.
Here in Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
But you have offices all over the country.
There's employees everywhere. Yes,
Wow.
sir. I can't give you numbers because I just pay attention to my job. Making sure Atlanta's.
Well, 100 years is a long time. It's a long time.
over
When
100
did you
years.
guys make the shift to become an ESOP?
ESOP, I believe it was in 2010 when we became an ESOP.
That was before it was like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's impressive.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I started in 2008, so they pretty much gave me the time that I already had prior to that too. So it really, kind of blended in, which I believe. Just at first I didn't look at it. When you first start it, you don't really have much money in it. But then 16 years later, you want to really pay attention.
Yeah.
After that, but it's that's another good perk to have. But And not only that, having a job you love. You go to
Yeah.
work every day and love your job. That's the best part.
I think that is one of the greatest things about what we do in the trades and loving what we do, because it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to have days where it sucks. You're going to have days where it's hard.
Yes.
And it's a different level for different people as to how hard that is and how what their perspective is that they're looking at it through. What might be hard to me might not be hard to you. You know?
Well, I would say being in construction and being a carpenter, pouring concrete, long hours, sometimes you're working 16, 18 hours a day, you're pouring concrete or whatever it may be. You're going to have your hard days. You're going to have your easy days. And my theory is this: if it was easy, it wouldn't be a job.
Yeah.
It's got to be hard. You got to, if it wasn't hard, everyone would be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what makes you more unique in that is that you know how to overcome those challenges when times are hard.
Yeah.
You got to just knuckle down and figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
well, Robert, what is the process of how you do that? Like when you say knuckle down and figure it out, like what do you think is one of, and I'm really throwing it at you here.
no, go for it. I like that.
But it's like, give me the three things that you need to
Resources.
do to knuckle. Yeah.
So another good thing that we have with JE Dunn is resources.
Okay.
If I don't know, I'm going to call the next superintendent or the next project manager, or they'll call me. Hey, Robert, I'm in a pinch over here. I got this situation right here. What do you think?
Yeah.
I can give them advice, or I'll show up to the job and I'll help them out.
Right.
And we'll get it done together. So it doesn't matter how complicated it is. The resources that we have, how we all back up each other, the JE Dunn family, how we're all sticking together with it. Doesn't matter how hard it is. If you think you can't do it, don't be scared to call somebody and ask someone. I've done that plenty of times. Suck your pride in. Just make that phone call. Like, look, I'm in a pinch here. I don't feel like I'm going to make this schedule. I need you to come out here and walk the job with me. Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And then I'll have my group manager come out, walk the job. It's happened in the past, It's like, you're right, Robert. Let's go ahead and man up some more manpower out here and let's get it done. And then when it all comes down to it, the job's going to get done either way.
Right.
And having that resource and having, that extra help to come in and help you when you need it, so anything can be done.
You talk about, not being prideful and not calling. Is that something that we struggle with in this industry?
We don't. I don't. And I worry about some of the younger superintendents coming up, because they're really trying to prove themselves to someone and not wanting to tell no one. And I'll get that phone call from them, and I'll go help them out. I'm not going to say nothing to everybody and call them out on it. I'm actually impressed that they called me, and it's not about pride. It's about, the job, getting the job done right, and the quality. You got to keep that. You have that quality stamp that when you finish that project, you want a quality job done.
Why do you think the younger guys look at it that way, and they're afraid or worried of how it's going to make them look?
I would say more experience, and I'm not saying all the younger guys. We have some younger superintendents where their companies just jam up, and they're just moving. They're just growing with the company really rapidly fast. And I feel like if you're younger, you're that younger guy. You're looking at all these experienced people. A lot of times it's intimidation. They want to move up with the company. They don't want to look bad. And I did that when I was younger. I was scared to say anything, and you know what I did? I made mistakes that I should have just picked up the phone and called somebody.
Well, that's the truth.
So with the years' experience, I've learned to make that phone call.
Yeah.
Because I remember what happened last time when I didn't call someone and made a mistake, and then it made me look even worse by making that mistake, and then we're having to come back and fix something, and then you lose your schedule, your budget, and everything else. So.
Well, and actually, when you don't call and open other eyes to it, to look at it, to help with those problems, you have one perspective, and the longer that time goes on, the more it has an opportunity to grow in this greater problem. I think that what you're just saying segues really well into the other question that I like to ask, and I think this is really important. Like we started, and I was talking with you about how this is kind of like the drives that I used to have in the van with the old timers that I would ask questions to and talk with. That's really a lot of what this podcast is. But one of the big things that I've learned from over the years is my mistakes, being willing to look at them, acknowledge them, own them, and like drag them into the light so that like I can see them. Because if it's not in the light, I can't see how or why did I make that mistake? What did I do? And a lot of the old timers that I worked with were really helpful when every now and then one or two of them, they would share with me their mistakes. Something that they did, and they're like, listen, so I experienced this, I did this, don't do that, and here's why. And it did one of two things. One, it helped me learn that I didn't want to do that, and then two, it made me realize that they didn't let that mistake rule them because they were able to talk about it.
And they learned from it.
And they learned from it. So you might see where this is going, Robert, but what is a mistake that you have made that you are willing to share? And I'm really going to, we call this podcast The Line because I challenge people to step up to the line.
Okay.
And make a difference. And the way that we do that is an honest and real conversation. So you don't have to answer, but we don't edit anything.
There's so many, I don't know which one to pick.
But what's a mistake that you've made that you feel you'd be willing to share that would actually benefit others, that they don't make that same mistake and they can learn from it? And be real about it.
It's really hard to pick. I'm not saying I'm by far not perfect. We all make mistakes. I feel like every mistake I've ever made I learned from, but you're asking me to pick one. It's like, oh man, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You got me stopped here because I don't know which one to pick.
Well, I tell you what I can do while you're thinking of which one to pick. I can talk about some of mine, and like you said, and I'm pretty good about talking about my mistakes because I make them so often. But when you talk about not asking questions and not talking with people, one of my bigger mistakes is not being aware and realizing that that person that I'm dealing with in that moment I might not be looking at them through my perspective or through the right perspective. I remember I was just talking with a guy here the other day and his best friend died. And I had no idea. And I reacted to I don't even know why I'm saying this on the air because it makes me sound like a total loser. But that would be accurate because I made the mistake of being like, dude, what's your problem? And I really got in his face about it. I'm like, why are you acting like this? And then I find out later that I didn't have grace for him in that moment because I wasn't thinking about, well, what are you dealing with today?
You never know.
And you never know. And I think that's really important to be like, and here his friend died, and it's like, you never know what they're dealing with and the importance of sometimes you're that person. Like I've had people call me and chew me out about something, and I'm like, dude, you only let me know. Like I reacted because I'm like, you don't know what I'm dealing with here.
Right.
And so what's a mistake that
I would say the biggest thing, I would say the biggest thing is making that assumption on quite a few things. When you assume something, then you realize, you go back, you're like, oh man, I just assumed that they did it like this, and you didn't backtrack or check someone's measurement and just assume that they did something. And that happens a lot, and not just my industry, in all the industries, when you just assume someone's already done something, whether it was shutting off that water valve at night or shutting that breaker off at the end of the day and not leaving it on, and something staying on all night long. And not just as a superintendent, but just any of us. When you make an assumption and just and all you had to do is just pick up the phone or call them and ask them that question. I got it done. What the hell you think? What do you think? I'm like, I'm just calling to make sure so I can sleep good at night.
Yeah.
So lately, I would say, what I do right now, I still make mistakes. I'm not saying I'm perfect and all like that, but being away from being a superintendent for as long as I have now, I'm trying to think back on how far, what I've done plenty of times. But I've done, there was sometimes, I think I say assumptions, because I had an engineer on a job that laid out some footings, and I moved that control line over because there was an RFI on it that changed that control line, and I should have called the engineer back up and said, hey, that control line moved over, let's make sure we get it moved over. So I went to the contractor and said, hey, we're using this control line, but then this is your offset from your control line. Walked away, and then that foreman didn't tell his next guy the same thing. Before you know it, we got some footings that are out. So then here we go digging in, having to move a footing, and I made that assumption, and I was like, I should have never done that. I should have had my engineer come back out, shoot a new control line in, and I made that assumption that trade partner was going to communicate that with his foreman, and at the time the crew knew, but when another foreman came out, it didn't get translated to him. So I would say those are pretty big mistakes that you can that I've made in the past. So.
That's a good one. I mean, the
assumptions.
importance of communication, I think, is a really, really, really big deal. And I don't think that people understand the level of intention that you need to have. There's an old phrase, I won't say what it is, but when you assume, it makes you and me something.
Yes. I almost said that a while ago, but I didn't want to.
Well, you can say that it makes an ass out of you and me. It's okay.
Out of all of us.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But yeah, communication is big, especially being a superintendent as long as I have. And if anybody knows me that's watching this, they know I over-communicate everything way too much. One of my biggest issues is I talk a lot, and I'm always explaining myself. And what I love about, the trades, we do a skilled trades in-house. We train our younger employees and some of our older carpenters. They'll sign up and they'll come to class with us, and we offer that training for our employees, and we pay them time and a half to learn to get their skill set higher and higher. So I'm always training, so I'm always talking, explaining myself, everything I do. Sometimes I'll put my tools on and I'll help out, and I'll talk the whole way through why I'm putting the speed square like this, why I'm cutting it like this, and giving them the whole scenarios. Like, this is what would happen if you didn't. You got to make sure you do it this way. So I'm always over-communicating myself, especially when I'm doing training. And
that repetitive stuff we need.
You have to keep talking about it.
You have to keep talking.
Because you make that assumption that they already know, and they can get hurt for all you know.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's really good. I think the other thing about training that's really cool is training is a way that you really can learn well. I think I've learned more when I'm training someone else to do something.
You're learning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Robert, I so appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us here and stepping up to the line, having this conversation.
Well, you got me out of that duty having to clean up.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I didn't have to clean up.
I was hoping that you just were so excited to step up to the line, but
no,
if we can,
I really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad.
Yes, I really enjoyed it.
This is all about lifting the view of the skilled trades, and I think you helped us do that today.
Right, and that's where we're at right now, is getting a younger generation and getting more tradesmen in America. We got to do it, and I feel like we're on the right track, but I feel like we're 10 years behind doing it.
That's a good way to put it. I would say, I never think that something is too late, because if you're not dead, it ain't too late.
You got to keep going.
You got to keep going, but it's like, we got some catching up to do for sure.
And you've seen how many all these trades and everyone that's out here, how many people are involved doing this right now with the schools and just the teachers and bringing them out here, not just the teachers, but the principals allowing them to do it and getting that more. Because, I don't know how old you are, but when I was in school, I had a shop teacher.
Yeah.
We learned how to work on cars. We learned how to build stuff.
I'm old enough.
And that was taken away from school for such a long time. And now that it's coming back, you see it on all these high schools in this area here that I've been to quite a bit. I helped some of the shop teachers out and just do a class with them, and just seeing that I'm glad they had this in school, but then the technology they have today compared to what we had, it's unbelievable.
Was at SkillsUSA earlier this summer, and I did a VR welder.
Oh, wow.
It was, and I can do some welding. You never want to hire me for it, but I can do some welding. And I will say this, it messed with my brain because it felt so real that, when you're welding, if you've ever done it and you got your hood on, you can smell the weld. Mm-hmm. I was totally wearing a computer thing. I'm immersed in it, and I felt like I could smell the weld, which was just my brain playing tricks on me, but it looked and felt real. And it was a great tool to teach you how to do a bead and all that.
I believe we had some trailers out here today that had that.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Really neat.
It's pretty fascinating. And it saves you a lot of money and a lot of slag.
Yeah, a lot of scrap metal.
Exactly.
They have the simulators, operating simulators too, where they get the machinery.
Tin Star was over there with track.
They do that with the tractors.
Absolutely.
It's better than letting that kid go out in the field and hurt himself or mess up a $200,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So technology has definitely come a long way, and I feel like this generation has so many tools in front of them.
Yeah, I agree.
All they have to do is just take advantage of it.
I agree. I think, just as we're closing here, I want to bring up the point of these kids were here today at this event, and this event was put on by trade partners. General contractors. JE Dunn wasn't the only one here. There were multiple different companies here. Because we can't do this alone. We have to build together. So a big thank you to that. Thank you for stepping up to the line.
And thank you for getting me out of cleanup duty there.
Greatly enjoyed it. Great conversation.